Picture the hottest afternoon of the year, the air in your living room thick and still, and you reaching for the thermostat again, already dreading the bill. Now picture cooling that same room in minutes without touching a single switch. That is exactly what I want to show you today. In Japanese homes, summer has been survived this way for hundreds of years, long before air conditioning existed, using nothing but reeds, water, cloth, and a little cleverness. I grew up watching my grandmother make her whole house feel 10 degrees cooler with a bucket and a bamboo screen, and I never understood how much it was doing until I tried to survive an American summer without it. Stay with me all the way to the end, because the last trick is the one my grandmother did every single evening, and it can drop the temperature around your home in about the time it takes to boil water. And before you think this only works in a big house with a garden, I promise you every idea here works in a small apartment or a rental, with no drilling and no permission from anyone. Let me start with the first thing you should know, because it is the one that changed the most for me the fastest. The first idea is hanging your shade on the outside of the window instead of the inside. I know that sounds backward. For years I did what most of us do. I closed the curtains and blinds inside, and wondered why the room still felt like an oven by 3 in the afternoon. Here's the thing nobody told me. Once sunlight passes through the glass, the heat is already inside your home, and your indoor curtain is just trapping it there like a greenhouse. The Japanese solution is a reed blind called a sudare, and it hangs outside the window, so it stops the sun before it ever reaches the glass. Sudare are made from thin strips of bamboo or reed woven together with gaps between them, and those gaps are the secret. They block the direct sunlight, but still let air move through and still let you see out a little. My grandmother hung hers every June and took them down in September, and the room behind them stayed noticeably cooler all day. When I finally hung one on the west-facing window of my apartment, the window that used to bake the whole living room every evening, the difference by dinner time was something I could feel on my skin. That is the whole principle behind everything today. Stop the heat outside, not inside. But blocking one window is just the beginning, because there is a bigger version of this that shades an entire wall. The second idea is the yoshizu, and this is the big brother of the sudare. Where a sudare is a small hanging blind for a single window, a yoshizu is a large reed screen, sometimes 6 feet tall or more, that you lean against the outside of your house like a giant panel. In old neighborhoods, you see them propped against the sunny side of homes and along the edges of verandas, standing up like a wall of woven reeds. What they do is shade the actual wall of the building, not just the glass. And that matters more than you would think, because a sunlit wall soaks up heat all day and then radiates it into your rooms long after the sun has moved. By keeping the wall itself in shade, the whole surface stays cooler, and the room behind it never gets that baked brick feeling. I used to think shade was shade, that a tree or an umbrella did the same job, but standing next to a wall protected by a yoshizu on a hot day, you feel how much cooler the air right there is. If you have a balcony or a patio that turns into a furnace by noon, leaning a reed screen against the railing changes that space completely. Therefore, the lesson keeps building, but reeds are only half of the story, because the next idea is about moving the cool air you already have. The third idea is what Japanese builders call kaze no michi, which means the path of the wind. This one is free, and it is the mistake almost everyone makes. When it is hot, we tend to crack open one window and hope for a breeze. But a single open window does almost nothing, because air needs somewhere to enter and somewhere to leave before it will actually flow. The trick is to open 2 openings on opposite or diagonal sides of your home at the same time, so you create a channel for the air to travel through. In traditional Japanese houses, this was designed right into the building, with sliding doors and openings lined up so a breeze could pass clean through the house from one side to the other. You can recreate it in any home tonight. Open a low window on the cooler, shaded side of your place, and open a higher window or door on the opposite side, because warm air rises and will pull out through the higher opening, while cooler air is drawn in through the lower one. The first time I did this properly, opening the shaded bedroom window and the opposite kitchen window instead of just one, the still air in my hallway suddenly started moving on its own. It felt like the house exhaled. But once you have the wind moving, you can aim it exactly where you want it. And that is the fourth idea. The fourth idea is the norin, the short split curtain you have probably seen hanging in the doorway of a Japanese shop or kitchen. Most people think it is just decoration, and I did too. But in a home, it quietly does two jobs at once. Hung in an interior doorway, it gently guides that wind path I just described, nudging the moving air along the route you want it to take from room to room. And because the fabric is light and split down the middle, it lets people and breezes pass through easily while still marking off spaces and blocking some of the harsh light from a sunny room spilling into a cooler one. In summer, homes swap heavier fabrics for thin linen or cotton norin that barely weigh anything. So they lift and sway with every little movement of air, which also makes the room feel cooler just to look at. I hung a simple linen one between my kitchen and living room, and beyond guiding the breeze, it gave the whole space that calm, layered feeling that Japanese rooms have. Therefore, you are already shading the heat out and moving cool air through. But now let me show you the trick that makes even a hot, still breeze feel cold. The fifth idea costs you nothing but a hand towel, and it borrows the same science your own body uses when you sweat. When water evaporates, it pulls heat out of the air around it, and that is called evaporative cooling. In Japanese homes on a hot evening, a common trick is to dampen a cloth and hang it where the air moves, or to drape a wet towel in front of an open window or a simple fan. As the moving air passes over the wet cloth, the water evaporates and the air on the other side comes out several degrees cooler and softer. I was honestly skeptical the first time, standing there feeling silly with a dripping towel, but when I held my hand on the far side of that damp cloth in front of the fan, the air really did come through cool, not just moving. The important detail is to wring the towel so it is damp, not soaking, and to place it where air is actually flowing, otherwise it just sits there. On the driest, most stubborn afternoons, this is the fastest way to take the edge off a room. But cooling the air is one thing, and cooling the surfaces you actually touch and lie on is another, so let me take you to the floor. The sixth idea is under your feet, and it is one of the most overlooked. In summer, Japanese homes bring out mats woven from a rush grass called egusa, the same grass used in traditional tatami, and lay them down as a cool surface to sit and sleep on. These woven rush mats, sometimes called goza, do something a carpet or a wood floor cannot. The natural grass breathes, it wicks moisture away from your skin, and it stays cool to the touch even on a hot day. So lying down on one feels like touching cool stone instead of warm fabric. There is a reason a freshly laid tatami room has that clean green scent and that cool, dry feeling underfoot in summer. Carpet, on the other hand, holds heat and holds humidity, which is exactly what you do not want. When I rolled a simple egusa mat out over my bedroom floor in July and laid down on it, the coolness came up through the mat almost immediately. And I finally understood why my grandmother never had thick rugs down in summer. She rolled them up and put them away, and the bare cool floor did half the work for her. Therefore, the floor is handled, but where you rest your head matters just as much. And that brings me to the next idea. The seventh idea is about your pillow, because there is nothing worse than flipping it over all night searching for the cool side. Japanese sleepers have two beautiful answers to this. The first is the buckwheat husk pillow, called sobakawa, which is filled with the hard hulls of buckwheat seeds instead of foam or feathers. Those hulls do not trap your body heat the way soft stuffing does, and the tiny gaps between them let air move through the whole pillow, so it stays cool and never turns into that warm, damp lump under your head. The second answer is even more surprising the first time you see it. A pillow made of smooth bamboo, sometimes a little woven bamboo shell, or an arrangement of cool bamboo pieces. Bamboo naturally stays cool to the touch and does not hold heat, so resting your neck against it on a sweltering night feels wonderful. I resisted the buckwheat pillow for years because it looked stiff and old-fashioned, and the night I finally tried one, I could not believe I had spent so many summers fighting a hot pillow for no reason. That is the gift I most wanted to hand you today. straight from my grandmother's evenings to your home. And if you want to go deeper into building a home that feels this calm and ordered all year round, I want to tell you about something I put together for exactly that. Everything we have talked about in this video, and much more, is laid out step by step in my books Clear Home, Deep Order, and The Complete System. They are written for real homes, small spaces, rentals, busy lives, and they are available to find in the description below. If the way your home feels matters to you, I think you will find them worth your time. But cooling your body is not only physical, and the next idea proves that your mind plays a bigger role than you think. The eighth idea sounds almost too gentle to work, and it is the furin, the small glass or metal wind chime that hangs in the window or under the eaves of Japanese homes all summer. Here is what fascinated me when I learned it. The furin is not just decoration, and it is not just pretty sound. Over generations, that light, clear ringing became so strongly tied to summer breezes that hearing it actually makes people feel cooler, because the sound only rings when air is moving, so your mind learned to connect that chime with a breeze on your skin. Studies in Japan have even looked at how the sound of a furin can lower the way people perceive the temperature, essentially cooling you through your ears. I hung a small glass one by my open window, and on a still, heavy evening, the moment a little breeze came through and set it ringing, I felt myself relax and cool down before I had even registered the air itself. It costs almost nothing, and it turns every breeze into something you notice and enjoy. Therefore, comfort is as much about perception as temperature. But let me solve the one thing that ruins every open window summer night. The ninth idea fixes the reason most of us give up and shut the windows anyway, and that reason is bugs. The moment you open everything up for that beautiful cross breeze, in come the mosquitoes, so you slam the windows and turn the machines back on. Japanese homes solved this centuries ago with the kaya, a large, airy mosquito net that hangs over the sleeping area like a soft tent. Unlike a stuffy closed room, the kaya lets the night air pass right through its fine mesh, so you can throw every window open and let the cool evening breeze flow across your bed all night, while the net keeps every insect out. It is a completely different feeling from sweating behind sealed glass. You lie inside this gentle enclosure with real moving night air on your skin, listening to the quiet, and you sleep. My grandmother hung one every summer, and as a child, I thought it was like sleeping inside a cloud. Rediscovering that as an adult, being able to leave the windows wide open without a single bite, was the thing that finally let me stop fighting the heat at night. But I know what some of you are thinking right now, and this is exactly where I want to turn and talk to you directly. If you are living in a small apartment, or you are renting, and this whole time a little voice has been saying that these ideas are lovely for a house with a garden and a veranda, but useless for you, this next part is for you especially, so stay with me. Because I lived in a tiny rented apartment when I first brought all of this back into my own life, and I could not drill a hole, could not change a wall, could not so much as repaint. And every single one of these ideas still worked. The 10th idea is how you hang that outside shade, the sudare, when you are not allowed to put a single screw in the wall. You do not need to. Use a tension rod wedged inside your window frame or across your balcony opening, the same kind of spring-loaded rod people use for shower curtains, and hang the reed blind from that. No holes, no marks, nothing your landlord will ever see. For a balcony railing, you simply clip or tie the sudare to the railing itself with a couple of loops of cord, or a few removable outdoor hooks that peel off cleanly when you leave. I hung my very first reed blind from a tension rod that cost me a few dollars on a rented window I was terrified to damage, and it shaded that hot glass all summer and came down in seconds with no trace at all. Renting is not the barrier you think it is. Therefore, small space is no excuse either, because the next idea actually works better the smaller your place is. The 11th idea is to attack the heat that radiates off your walls and windows using reflection. And this is perfect for a compact apartment where one hot window heats the whole room. On the sunniest window, the one that turns your place into a greenhouse, you can place a reflective panel or even a simple light-colored screen on the outside-facing side to bounce the sun's energy back out before it becomes heat inside. In Japanese homes, this pairs naturally with the reed screens, light-colored, breathable materials on the sunny side that reflect rather than absorb. The idea is simple. Dark surfaces drink up heat, and pale, reflective ones send it away. Even swapping to pale, light, summer textiles instead of dark, heavy ones changes how much heat your room stores. In a small space, this matters twice as much, because a small room heats up faster and there is nowhere for the heat to go. When I switched my one big sunny window over to a pale reflective screen on the outside and light linen inside, that little room stopped becoming unbearable by mid-afternoon the way it always had. But now that your small space is handled from the walls to the windows to the floor to the bed, let me give you the two ideas I saved for last, because these are the ones people always tell me they wish they had known sooner. The 12th idea is one of the most beautiful things Japanese households do in summer, and it is called the green curtain, the Midori no curtain. Instead of a blind or a screen, you grow a living wall of leaves across your sunniest window. People plant a fast-climbing vine at the base of the window, often a bitter gourd called goya, or morning glory, or cucumbers, and train it up a net so that by high summer, the whole window is covered in a thick curtain of green leaves. This does two things at once that no man-made shade can match. First, the leaves block the direct sun completely, keeping the glass and the wall behind it in cool shade. Second, and this is the part that amazed me, the plant is constantly releasing water vapor from its leaves in a process that actually cools the air right around it, the same way a shady tree feels cooler underneath than an umbrella does. So you get shade and evaporative cooling from the same living screen, and if you plant Goya, you even get vegetables to eat at the end of it. This became so popular that whole schools, offices, and city buildings across Japan started growing green curtains up their walls in summer to bring the indoor temperature down. On an apartment balcony, you just need a few pots, a net, and a tension rod or railing to train the vines up, so renters can do this too. I grew one up my balcony rail one summer, half not believing it would matter, and by August, the room behind that wall of leaves was cool and dim and green-lit, and I was picking gourds off my own window. Therefore, you have shade that lives and breathes and feeds you. But I promised you the very best for last, and this is the one my grandmother did every single evening. The 13th idea is the oldest and simplest of them all, and it is the one that can drop the temperature around your home within minutes. It is called uchimizu, which means, quite literally, throwing water. For centuries, on hot summer evenings, people all across Japan have stepped outside just before the cool of dusk and sprinkled water across the ground, over the stones of the entryway, the pavement in front of the door, the garden path, the balcony floor. It looks like a small, humble ritual, but the science underneath it is powerful. When that thin layer of water evaporates off the hot ground, it pulls a great deal of heat out of the surface and the air directly above it, and the temperature in that space can drop by a few degrees in just a few minutes, while a gentle cooling breeze rises off the dampened ground. The timing is everything, and this is the detail my grandmother taught me, without ever explaining it as science. You never do it in the blazing midday sun, because then the water just steams away and can make the air more humid. You do it in the early morning, or, best of all, in the evening when the sun is lower, so the cooled air lingers and drifts inside through your open windows and your wind path. And here's the part I love most. Tradition says you should use leftover or reused water. The water from washing vegetables, from the bath, from the rain barrel, never fresh, clean water wasted, so it was always meant to be gentle on both the house and the earth. I remember standing beside my grandmother at dusk as she scattered water from a wooden ladle across the stone path, and I thought she was just tidying up. I had no idea she was air conditioning the entire front of the house with a bucket. Years later, sweltering in a hot city apartment abroad, I finally tried it myself on my little concrete balcony one evening, sprinkling reused water across the hot floor just as the sun dropped. Within minutes, a cool draft was rising off that balcony and slipping in through my open door, and I stood there almost laughing. Because the simplest trick of all, the one that costs nothing and uses water that would have gone down the drain, was doing what I had been paying a machine to do all summer. That is the gift I most wanted to hand you today, straight from my grandmother's evenings to your home. So here is what I hope you feel right now. Not overwhelmed, but light. Like the heat was never really the enemy, and you simply had never been shown the doors and windows that let it out. You are the kind of person who wants a home that feels calm and cool and easy, a home that works with the air and the water and the light, instead of fighting them with a switch, and now you have 13 ways to make that happen. I would love to know which one you are going to try first. Is it the reed blind on the outside of your window, the wet towel in front of the fan, or is it my grandmother's uchimizu at dusk? Tell me in the comments, and tell me where in the world you are watching from, because I am always amazed at how many climates these old Japanese tricks quietly fit into. If ideas like these make your home feel calmer and simpler, come join us here, because this is a place for people who want their homes to feel effortless and clear. And next time, I am going to show you the Japanese way of keeping a home cool and dry through the sticky, humid nights, including the one bedding secret that makes a summer mattress feel cool from the moment you lie down. Keep your windows open, and I will see you there. I'm Mika, and if you're still with me, here's what I couldn't fit in today. Inside the Tidy Home Circle, I pick up right where I stopped, walking you through the whole setup for your own rooms. You can ask me your own question, and I answer you myself. No bots. You belong here with us. Just point your phone camera at the code on the screen, and you can cancel any time with one click.